Hi, and welcome back to Wicked Mysterious. I'm your host, Danny, and I'm very excited because today we're going to do something a little different. So, there's a few episodes from the past few years that I'd like to revisit, either because the audio quality was bad or I've learned more about the topic since. So, I thought that we could start that today. I'm going to stick to the original script that I used for the previous episode. But I'm going to add in some new information that I've learned about this topic. Today, I'm going to be telling you about Helene Hadsell, who was the contest queen. This was one of the most popular episodes that we came out with. So I figured, why not talk about it again and this time add in some information that I had gotten totally wrong. And some new information that I've learned. I hope you're interested. And now that I have this much better setup, I figured why not just do it again? It's been a few years. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you do want to support my work, if you could give the video a like and subscribe, I am so freaking close to 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to help me get there, that would be lovely, but absolutely no pressure. So, this is a really interesting phenomenon about a woman who won every contest she ever entered, earning her the name the contest queen. And she is my personal hero, and I'm sure you'll see why. So, let's get into it. So, since the original episode aired, I've actually met virtually Carolyn Willman. She's an author and a digital marketer, and she also happens to be blessed with being the caretaker of Helene's legacy. So, after I had written the episode about Helene, Carolyn contacted me to be interviewed on her show, Words for Winning, and I'll leave a link to that interview on YouTube below. After the stream off air, I had the honor and privilege of being able to ask Carolyn my own questions about Helene and about manifestation and stuff like that, which she so graciously answered. And she also sent me all of Helene's audiobooks. So I was very lucky that I got to talk with her and got those books, which I did immediately listen to. So we also talked about some of the information I got wrong in my last coverage on Helene. So I'm going to leave links in the description box below if you'd like to check out Carolyn. If you like this podcast, you might like some of the adjacent topics that I'm also into, like mindset and manifestation. Carolyn was telling me that she had recently made a TikTok video answering a question about manifestation that someone had. She explained that she collects alphabet books by Sue Grafton, specifically the hardcover versions. And in her video, she explains that her daughter suggested going to a library sale to look for the books or just to see if maybe they had them there. And Carolyn was hesitant because she knew that the previous library sales didn't have those books that she was looking for. She specifically was looking for A, B, and C, and she decided what the hell and went and checked it out anyway. And there at the library sale, she did find one of the books she was looking for. And I believe her video on TikTok was about, if you know stuff about manifestation, it's about letting the how go. So just believing that it's going to happen and being open to all the possibilities that it can come to you, all the ways it can come to you. So that's what she did. And shortly after our interview, I think it might have even been the very next day. I can't remember. It was over the summer. So it was either the next day or like 2 days later. I was out for a walk with my dog at the park in my town. And they have a little free library. So I always check it out whenever I go to this park. And there in the little free library in my tiny ass town was one of the books that Carolyn was looking for. I had to immediately text her and be like, I found C is for Corpse, the hardcover, the one you were looking for. I immediately jumped in my car and mailed it off to her in Canada. So it's just so funny how we're all connected and that this stuff really does work once you understand it. So, with that, let's get on to the story. Helene was born Helene Barbara Deschel on June 1st, 1924. She was born in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and moved to Vancouver, Washington at age 18. She married a man named Paul Hadsell, who was from Texas, where they eventually relocated. They had three children in Grand Prairie, Texas. As a homemaker, she was very involved in her community and she was on the PTO. She was president of her local chorus and an editor for the Society News and the Irving News Record and a Girl Scout leader. In 1948, the Hadsell family began contesting, which was a very popular activity and pastime in the late 40s. Contesting usually required people to give an exorbitant amount of time to sending in for sweepstakes, which were drawn at random, and the more entries sent, the higher your chances. Helene's first win was in 1949 when she won an at home hair perm kit for a national drugstore. But for the first decade, she really didn't win much of anything. So, actually, since this episode first aired, I've actually learned from Helene's book, In Contact with Other Realms, that she had won other things and had other mystical experiences before she ever even started contesting. The first weird thing or mystical thing that happened to her as a child was when she was in the room with her family when her grandfather passed away. She witnessed his spirit leave his body, and she said she became aware of people appearing in the room that she didn't recognize, and they surrounded her grandfather's body after he passed. Her grandfather's spirit, looking like a double of her grandfather, sat up smiling and left the bed, and the strangers took him through the wall where he disappeared. And contesting was not the first time that Helene had won anything either with her mind. Growing up in a Catholic school, she learned what a novena was. Now, I also grew up in an Irish Catholic household, and I was surprised that I've never heard of something called a novena, the prayers mentioned in Helene's book. I asked my mom, and she said that my grandmother used to do novenas, which involved 9 days of prayer to Mother Mary, and that's what Helene did. She prayed for a sack of candy, which was a very rare treat during the Depression. She specifically prayed for 3 pieces of each type of candy so that she could share it with her siblings. The nuns at her school told her not to waste her time and that Mother Mary had more serious prayers to answer, but Helene was steadfast. She kept telling herself that this was just a delay in results. Her mother would often send her to the store to pick up groceries, and the store clerk was usually grouchy and mean to kids. But after the 9 days of prayer, out of nowhere, he opened the candy case and gave her 3 pieces of each candy. This had nothing to do with religion or prayer at all, but the unshakable belief that the candy would be hers. And this is the same system she used during her later contesting. In 1958, Helene read the book The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. She quoted a line from the book to Pat, her husband, as he was reading a fishing magazine in the family room. Helene excitedly told him, "You can have anything you want, provided that you know what you want." To which her husband replied, "Fine then, I want this outboard motor." This is where her luck started to change. Helene began entering contests where skill was required. She entered into many contests where she would have had to write 25 words or less. The first big win was from Coca-Cola. She imagined her husband sitting in a boat, and she wrote, "I'm a lone wolf fisherman. Cokes are my silent partners. They contribute no yickety yak, only enjoyment." She said to her husband, "I wonder how long it's going to take them to tell us we won." And of course, she won the exact boat her husband pointed out. Next, she asked her daughter what she wanted, and her daughter said a Schwinn bicycle. She had her daughter sit on a bike and imagine it was hers, decide on the color and the style. They entered into a contest where they had to name a pony. She had her daughter visualize the pony, what color it was, what he did, and her children said, "He's brown and he prances." And she responded, "Yes, he's brown and he prances." They decided on the name Prance Charming. And with that name, Prance Charming, her son won a bunch of toys. She actually took a class on contest winning. And with the new knowledge, she began winning every contest she ever entered. She learned that contest judges were looking for out of the box original slogans and ideas that used humor and wit. She said, quote, looking for something different, coined words or phrases, and humor. I'd say humor has won more for me than anything. I have another saying, pun for the money. They referred to these puns as coined words, and they started winning things left and right. They won toy guns for her son, roller skates, and new linoleum floors. I'm just going to pause here because I don't remember if this was in my original script, but me and a lot of other people out there that cover this topic say that she won 5,000 contests. And I was talking to Carolyn after our interview, and Carolyn was telling me she doesn't know. I can't remember if she said she doesn't know where that came from or if Helene said that, but maybe it's not true, because if you do the math, she would have had to win a contest a day for like I don't know a crazy amount of years, like 5,000 contests. Let's say 5,000 divided by 365. She would have had to win a contest a day for like 14 years straight if she was winning, if she won 5,000 contests. So, not true. So, I'm sorry. That is a very common lie, a very common miscalculation. She certainly won a lot. And like I'll get into, she was vetted through and through, but the 5,000 thing is not true. The first trip they won was to a dude ranch in Arizona that her son really wanted to go to, but Helene was afraid to fly. She asked if they could drive, but the contest runners told her no, so she missed out on the trip. To make it up to her kids, she won a trip to Disneyland where she got over her fear of flying and then went on to win another trip to back to that dude ranch for her son. They also won a trip to the World's Fair. By now, Helene was about to be 40 years old. She said, quote, I had read that Paris was the city of light, love, and excitement. I wanted to be in Paris, France, sitting at a sidewalk cafe, drinking wine on my 40th birthday. She said that she started entering contests only that were offering trips. The contest was again 25 words or less, and she wrote, I'm a pooped couple with 3 kiddos, and I'd like to go to Paris, France to recapture the rapture of springtime ecstasy in my fab 40 frustrated years. With her 40th birthday being in June, she won an organ in April. Panicked, she realized that this was a lesson in patience. She was really big on this idea that if you stick with an intention long enough and strong enough, it has no choice but to come to you. This is energy and vibration. She won a trip to Venice, but they allowed her to change the tickets to France. So on her 40th birthday, she was at a sidewalk cafe drinking wine in Paris, France. In 1969, there was a contest to win a home from Formica. She begged 2 friends to come with her, and neither wanted to. She said she felt compelled to drive the 50 miles to the model home. She almost didn't go because it was raining, but she felt as though something pulled her out of the house. She got to the model house and sat inside it, smelled the smells of the new home, and started imagining the style of furniture she wanted. She took 3 entry slips, one for herself, one for her husband, and a blank entry slip. When she got home, she realized that the entry slip said the winning contestant had to have visited the model home. Her husband hadn't gone, so the next day, she and her husband drove to the model home again to ensure their winning. Meanwhile, her husband drafted blueprints for the new home they were going to win. They drove around the area looking at empty lots. Sure enough, Formica called. They're going to let us know we won this house. For God's sake, act surprised, she said. She won a 4,300 square foot home built custom in Irving, Texas. It cost $50,000, which in today's money is $400,000, which again, I wrote this in 2022, so it's probably even more now. Formica also covered the cost of the taxes on their winnings. They paid for an interior decorator, sent flowers and candy, and they were wined and dined because it was such good publicity for Formica. They even sent her and her husband first class to New York City. This next one is my favorite story. She went to Hollywood to see a live taping of Art Linkletter. He was a TV show and radio host. She waited outside the door, and just before letting her in, the man collecting the tickets told her there were no more seats. He handed out tickets to the crowd, telling them to line up at the next door for a taping of a different show. The crowd left and Helene stayed put. After about 20 minutes, the door opened again and the man said, "You're still here?" And she said, "Yes, I came to see Art Linkletter." And the man said, "Okay, well, let me see if there's anything available." He came back and a moment later told Helene that there was one seat left in the nosebleeds. Either someone left or someone didn't show up. So she made her way to the seat. A little while later, Art announced that this was their Christmas show and they were going to give a member of the audience a Christmas present. He made his way through the audience and eventually found his way to Helene. He asked her numerous times, "Do I know you?" And Helene kept responding, "Nope, I've never been here before." He selected her to join him on stage and open the Christmas present. On the stage was a giant box, and out of the box jumped a little person dressed as Santa. He kissed her on the cheek and handed her a $1,500 diamond bracelet. She stood off to the side of the stage, and after the show, Art kept just looking at her. And finally, he walked over and asked her, "Are you sure I don't know you?" Unbeknownst to him, the night before, Helene sat in her living room and said, "Art Linkletter, when you see me, you're going to know me. I'm going to be on your show. Art, here I am. I'm going to wear an orange sweater." She said that everyone has free will, so you can't control someone else's mind, but she did project it and it did work. I recently saw, because my TikTok algorithm is all about this stuff. It was called the whisper method, and it was just this. I just put that together, but it was a girl talking about how if you interview for a job, imagine the person that interviewed you, and imagine like going into their ear and whispering, and like basically projection, which we'll talk about in this episode. Um, but yeah, interesting because a lot of people are still following her techniques, and finding them through different avenues, not necessarily her, but they do work. So just thought that was cool. Helene did come up with a system where she taught other people how to win contests or really win anything you want in life. And she called it the SPEC system, SPEC. S stands for select it, which is you decide the thing that you want, which I think is the hardest part. And then P is project it. So that's visualizing having it with every sense. E, expect it. Have no doubt. Don't try to figure out how it'll come to you. Just have a calm knowing about it. C is collect it. That's when you receive it. So that's SPEC, SPEC. She also advised to keep a notebook labeled gratitude journal and paste inspiring things in it. She said if you're stuck in a negative way of thinking, read the Desiderata. And I read the Desiderata in the previous episode. I'm not going to read it again, but it is a beautiful poem. And I've actually heard it quoted quite a few times, from different people, different sections of it. Um, Helene also studied under Jose Silva, who developed the Silva method, which is still in practice today. You can uh, buy, I don't know if it's like a membership, but you can learn the Silva method through their workshops. And so, a little about the Silva method from Wikipedia. It's the technique that aims to reach and sustain a state of mental functioning called alpha state, where brainwave frequency is 7 to 14 hertz. So, daydreaming and transition to sleeping are alpha states. Silva claimed to have developed a program that trained people to enter certain brain states of enhanced awareness, and he claimed to have developed several systematic mental processes to use while in these states, allowing a person to mentally project with a specific intent. According to Silva, once the mind is projected, a person can allegedly view distant objects and locations and connect with higher intelligence for guidance. The information received by the projected mind is said to be perceived as thoughts, images, feelings, smells, tastes, and sound by the mind. The information obtained in this manner can be acted upon to solve problems. And then a little further down the timeline for Helene, in 1971, she wrote the Name It and Claim It game, Winnouvers for Wishcraft. And this was a play on words because people often called her a witch. In 1973, Helene had received a distant learning doctorate in metaphysics, specifically psychics and counseling via correspondence education from the Brotherhood of the White Temple in Sedalia, Colorado. This is an uncredited institution that had been founded by Maurice Doreal. In 2002, she wrote In Contact with Other Realms, an adventurer's experience in awareness. And subsequently, it was updated and republished by Carolyn Willman, which we talked about earlier in 2020. She also wrote A Confession of an 83-Year-Old Sage in 2007. Just to end on some quotes from Helene, you can convince yourself of achieving something, repeating it over and over until you beat your own thinking. She said, to do this, step 1 is to set a goal. Step 2, never entertain doubts. Step 3, you can con yourself into anything by repeating it over and over until one day it's incorporated into your thinking. And then just to end on a cute little note, I found a poem that Helene had written. And where is this from? The set. I think it was the. Do I not have it written? Good job. Good job, Danielle. Well, it's from somewhere. It was in a newspaper, and it was called Where's Grandma? In the dim and distant past, when the tempo wasn't fast, Grandma used to rock and knit, crochet, read, and babysit. In those days of gracious living, Grandma was one forgiving. When the family was in a jam, they could always count on Gram. Today you'll find her at the gym, swimming and cycling to keep trim. Nothing these days seems to stop her now that Grandma's off her rocker. So adorable. Love her. I did write it. Saturday Evening Post, February 2007. So that one I had to hunt for. I remember that when I wrote this episode. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And now that the quality is better, we'll be revisiting some more. I really want to revisit George Van Tassel because that episode was just a mess. And I remember we had to record it twice. So the second time I'm just like rushing through it like blah, 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 as fast as I could. And it just came out so terrible. And it was like crackly. And a lot of the early episodes are just bad. Bad quality anyway, audio quality. So I hope you like this and check out Carolyn Willman. I'll leave that link in the description. Also, I always forget to mention this, but I also do courses on meditation and metaphysics. If that's something you're interested in, you can head over to my website. It's hypna-gaja.com. Right now it is on a waiting list, but I'm creating some new courses that are coming out soon. So feel free to check that out. You can also sign up for my newsletter over there and you'll get a free episode, pre-release episode. And if you want to support this channel over on Patreon members get also early access to episodes. So pretty soon, though, we'll have channel memberships over on YouTube. So if that's something you want to see and you want to see my prednisone moon face, you're welcome to. I had an ear infection randomly. I wasn't even sick. So I noticed tonight, I'm like, damn, look at that chin, girl. But pretty sure it's moon face. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this and I will see you again soon. Thanks for listening. Stay mysterious.